Title: One Conversation Worth a Million. A story about Max and the stranger who changed his life. Part 1. The street and the cigarette Max stood at the corner of 6th and Broadway. The rain had just stopped 10 minutes ago, and puddles on the asphalt mirrored the neon signs of nearby diners. His jacket was thin, his boots were soaked, and in his pocket were 2 small coins and an old bus ticket. Another day in paradise, he muttered to himself, pulling out a crumpled cigarette. The lighter refused to spark on the first try, but Max was used to that. He was the type who held on until the very end, even if the end meant a park bench under a bridge and a cup of coffee bought with someone else's kindness. He didn't immediately notice the sleek black car that had pulled up beside him. Silent, unhurried. The window slid down, and a man in an expensive coat nodded at Max. Cold out, isn't it? Max frowned. This wasn't your average guy. There was no fear or pity in his voice, just calm observation. His gaze was direct, like he wasn't looking at a ragged man on the street, but at an equal. Yeah, it's winter. Max grumbled and turned away. He knew this type. The rich liked to play. Sometimes they'd hand out a few bucks to feel like saints. Other times they'd just laugh. Would you like some tea or coffee? The man continued, still inside the car. Max laughed dryly. What's the game? Want to hear a sad story? I've told it 100 times already. No, the man replied, opening the car door. I want to talk. Max didn't know why he got in. Maybe out of exhaustion. Maybe because he hadn't had a real conversation in too long. Or maybe because something in the man's voice was different. Part 2. The Conversation. They sat in the soft silence of the leather interior. Warmth wrapped around Max like a blanket. The man handed him a cup of hot tea from a thermos. My name's Richard, he said. And you? Max, just Max. Richard smiled. Just Max. And what did you do before? Max stayed silent. The question wasn't rude, but it was direct. Eventually, he shrugged. I worked, construction, got laid off, then my mom passed, then everything fell apart. The city's big, but no one's waiting for you. Ended up on the streets. Simple as that. Richard nodded. Very simple, like a note in the margins. He fell quiet. Max noticed his hands, clean but scarred. Not the hands of a banker. Who was this guy? You some kind of shrink? Or just bored? Neither, Richard said. I'm looking for someone. Max smirked. And you found him. Wet and broke on a street corner? Sometimes those are the people who matter most, Richard replied. Max put the tea down. Listen, if this is some experiment, I'm not your doll. If you just want to feel good about yourself, give me the money and leave. What if I offered you a deal? Max frowned. What kind of deal? Tomorrow you come with me. One day, one dinner, one conversation. You get $1,000. No strings. If you don't like it, walk away. If you do, we'll talk again. Max sat in silence for a long time. Then he shrugged. What if I say yes? Richard smiled. Then I'll see you tomorrow, Max. The car will pick you up at 6. Part 3. The day after Max woke up early. His sleep had been restless. In one dream, he stood on a stage in a suit. In another, he was back under a bridge, alone and forgotten. At 5:59 a.m., the black Maybach pulled up again. The driver didn't exit. He just opened the door. Max stepped in. Everything was just as before. Warm, quiet, clean. This time, there was cappuccino and a chocolate croissant. Max hesitated, then took them. Good morning, Max, Richard greeted him. Ready for an adventure? Where to? Somewhere reality becomes transparent. Max snorted. Sounds like a coffee shop. Close, Richard nodded. We'll have a private table and a meaningful talk. Part 4. Dinner with a Million Meanings. They arrived at a restaurant on the top floor of a skyscraper, a glass dome overlooking the city. No one else was there. A server brought French-prepared beef, truffle oil, avocado salad, almond tart. Max ate like it was his last meal. Why me? He finally asked. Richard gazed out the window. Because you're not broken. Burned, yes, but not gone. I've spent years watching people. Some lose everything and stand tall. Others lose just a little and collapse. Max put down his fork. You a philosopher? I'm a billionaire. Tech, medicine, investments. But that's all dust. I'm searching for people who understand what truly matters. Not numbers, not stocks. People. He pulled out an envelope and set it on the table. There's $1,000 for one day. You owe me nothing. Max picked it up. Heavy. Real. But there's a second envelope, Richard added, revealing another. This one contains an offer, a job, training, a chance. For what? For being exactly who you are, alive. Max looked at him for a long time. Then he took the envelope, but didn't open it. I'll think about it, Richard nodded. That's why I chose you. Part 5. The Decision. The next day, Max stood in front of a tower he'd only seen on the news before, a glass giant with the Centec logo. His hands shook. Same old jacket, but something in his face had changed. He entered. Reception was ready for him. Max, Mr. Hale is expecting you. Max walked in. His heart thudded. He didn't know what lay ahead. He didn't know who he'd become. But he knew one thing. For the first time in years, someone had opened a real door. Part 6. First day at Centec. The top floor was silent. Behind black glass walls stood Richard's private office, a massive desk, Richard behind it, sipping tea. Welcome, Max, he said. From this moment, you're part of something greater. I don't know anything, Max said. I've got no degree. You've got what matters, honesty. We can teach the rest. He handed Max a folder, training schedule, access badge, housing keys, and a contract. Max frowned. It didn't mention a position, just one line. Participant in the Human Observation and Response Program. What is this? We study human reactions to power, to loneliness, to hope. You'll observe offices, streets, meetings. You'll just be there. Listen, compare, write reports. I'm a spy? No, said Richard. You're a mirror. People are real only when they don't feel threatened. You're perfect. Part 7. Inner Doors. 3 weeks passed. Max now lived in a company apartment, wore clean suits, visited dozens of sites, executive floors, elite clubs, late-night boardrooms. He watched, he listened, and slowly, he changed. He was no longer the man under the bridge. One night, in the company's archive, he found a file labeled Project ECHO. Most of it was locked, but one note was visible: Test of Trust. Phase 1, Selection. Phase 2, Immersion. Phase 3, The Choice. Then he saw his name. Subject number 9, Max Gray, Part 8, Doubt, that night. Max stormed into Richard's office. You're using me. What is this project? Richard looked up calmly. Yes, I'm watching you, just as you're watching others. It's an experiment? Number, it's more. It's a test at the edge of life. You're not a subject. You're the center. A test? A challenge. I needed someone who could go through despair, illusion, temptation, and remain themselves. What if I'd said no? Then we'd never have met. Max sat, dizzy. What now? Richard handed him a key. Small, metallic, engraved with a symbol, a circle split in half. You have a choice. One door leads away. Money, a quiet life, no questions. The other opens a room. Behind it is the truth. But once you go in, there's no way back. Part 9. The Room. The elevator stopped at a floor not listed on any directory. There were no lights, no signs, just a single matte black door with no handle, only a keyhole shaped like the half-divided circle on the key Richard had given him. Max's heart pounded. He slid the key in. Click. The door opened silently, revealing a softly lit hallway lined with glass on both sides. Behind the glass were rooms, each different. In one, 2 people sat at a table under bright lights, speaking calmly. In another, a man paced alone in a white room. In a third, a woman appeared to be writing frantically on the walls. Max walked slowly, eyes wide. This wasn't just a company. It was something deeper. At the end of the hallway was a control room. Monitors lined the walls, each labeled with names and numbers. Subject 3, abandoned. Subject 5, withdrawn. Subject 9, active. His name glowed green. A man stood inside. Not Richard, but someone else. Tall, clean-shaven, thin like a scalpel. You must be Max, he said without turning. We've been watching you since day 1, or rather, before. Who are you? Max asked. The man turned. My name is Elliot. I'm the architect of Project Echo. What is this place? This is where we test what remains of a person when you strip away everything. Money, status, comfort. We place subjects in the world. We let them fall, and then we observe who comes back. You pushed me onto the streets. Max's voice trembled. Number Life did that. We just watched and waited. Max's fists clenched. Why me? Because you kept your eyes open. You didn't beg. You didn't hate. You listened. We think you're the first one who might go beyond the test. Max swallowed hard. Beyond? Elliot pointed to a monitor. It showed a room Max hadn't seen. Inside, another door. No cameras, no data, just silence. You want the truth? It's behind that door. But be warned, most who enter don't come out the same. Some don't come out at all. Part 10. The Final Choice. Max sat alone outside the inner door. The hallway was quiet. His mind raced. He had money now, a place to live. He could walk away. Richard would let him. But something inside him, curiosity, pain, hope, wouldn't let go. He stood up and opened the door.